right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out this evening. Appreciate your interest to learn more and gain information. I'm Andrew Kotyak. A couple housekeeping rules that we have here. Of course, the bathrooms, the men's on the left, the women's on the right. If there's an emergency, please go down the aisles and out the front doors to the street. And in addition, please be respectful of others. There is decorum here of speaking out. Of course, no signs. This is something that we need to be respectful, let everybody else gain information that's here tonight. So let's get started on a couple items. This is Hemet United's Annexation informational session. You can see behind me, I chose this photograph. It reminds me so much of our sunsets that we have here in the valley. This is over in the San Jacinto Wilderness Park. It's over on the northwest part of the city here that we have in the sunset. Just it's very beautiful. Stuff that we have with the San Jacinto Mountains in the background. But let's get going. I tried to choose a couple of things that really made us think of our valley and things that are important. But what is Hemet United and Rising? It really comes down to grassroots movement. This is kind of the important part of touring this valley around. Something that we've missed for a long time. I feel local control, a way to preserve our heritage. We're not like a lot of the newer cities. We're not like Menifee, Murrieta, Temecula. We've been here over 100 years. And it's a way for us to shape our future, right, together. So a little different aspect of leadership than you've seen over the several decades here. This photo here is of Hemet, many decades ago, of farmland. You always hear the great stories about apricot orchards, walnut orchards, persimmon trees, just fabulous history. Olives as well. Definitely doesn't look like that today, unfortunately. But, we did have heydays, right? A lot of people talk about the heydays that happened here. Hemet is heaven. This valley and the golden days that we're remembering. I've talked to a lot of people earlier this meeting here, the one we had at 2 o'clock, and they were reminiscing again about when they were here as a kid, they moved away, came back, what it is today versus what it was. The 50s was really the start of a peak of several decades for Hemet. They had Roman Patrick going on, they had Art in the Park, there was a lot of things that was going on during that time. C.D. Barks, if you know who that is, who came up and created Donald Duck and Scrooge, actually spent time in Art in the Park, and a lot of famous people were here at that time. It was third largest in the county, very large with population. All these other cities around here didn't exist. 74, Florida, and 79 were two major corridors for the county through here. So a lot of economic traffic during that time frame. Santa Fe Depot was still going as well. It was a senior community. A lot of seniors were here at that time. We asked you all to weigh in a little bit on your age groups from the different meetings. And, the majority of people here are seniors. They're over 55. So really good news that we still have a lot of seniors, people that care about their house, they're looking to settle down and care about their community. This is something that's, in my eyes, really important that we still have that. Is it as much as what we used to have? No. But it's very positive for us to see those things today. Fast forward to what I call the forgotten days, and growing up here, I got to see the tail end of the golden days, and I got to see the change that happened. The change started happening in the 80s, and what started happening? Well, it's the Route 66 effect. I saw Roy here with his Roy hat. It makes me think of Route 66. But what happened, right? Route 66, those towns were doing well with their older corridors, and when the interstates came, it pulled all the traffic away, all the economies away, and it drove those new communities to flourish, and the ones on Route 66 to become dilapidated, slow down, have less people live there, less revenue, less businesses, all those things start to happen. Well, that is what happened in the 80s. What happened in the 80s? So Riverside County started changing from a bedroom community the county formed the Riverside County Transportation Commission, which is a commission for highways and roads here in the county. Each city has a representative and each supervisor sits on it. So it was formed as they were growing and maturing. They passed a tax called Measure A tax, which was for roads. It was half cent at the time, passed in 1989. Another one was passed in 2004. But in there, they basically said we're going to build these new highways, these new interstates. 215, 15, and 60 were going to be built with this money. Well, including ours, 79 was supposed to be built in the valley. It's a promise made to our people. And since we were one of the only cities and largest cities, guess who was paying the tax at the time to build these other corridors? Our people, our community. So businesses and retail started to leave. And we asked you all, where do you choose to shop? Right? And we gave you other cities. And you can see that strikingly, most people shop in Temecula here. They leave town, right? There's, that's not a foreign thing. Marietta, Menifee, and I'm proud to say San Jacinto as a San Jacinto past council member of the work we did in San Jacinto. We did some sales tax, because San Jacinto didn't used to have a whole lot of revenue of sales tax and shopping. But the problem with this is our people are leaving town. We spend money in another community. That leaves our money there. It raises the waters in that community with our dollars. In our community, we don't spend it here, and we take our money out. It lowers our water, right? So all of our boats go down, and all their boats and their water go up, rise in those communities, right? So it's Costco, the mall. I remember going to our mall as a kid. I can't think of the last time I went into the mall for what store, for that aspect. So, a lot of things kind of started changing from the 80s on, and that's really continued. And it wasn't about our forefathers, a lot of people, generational people that at the time believed that stopping any annexation or stopping any highway corridor or anything in our valley would bring growth, and it would change our beautiful way of life here. And it would also bring a lot of negative things here into our community. Well, 40 years later, they came to me and said, we're absolutely wrong. All those negative things came to our community, yet we didn't get any of the positive things. It's kind of the flip side of what expected. So what happened, right? So you can see here exactly what happened. So in the 80s and the 90s, annexation started. So that was all county land, right? Temecula, Marietta, Menifee, all that was county. And what happened, right? Annexation occurred. Temecula, they had 3, Marietta 3, and of course Willamar Menifee was the latest in 08 that happened. So, our supervisor lives in one of those, and annexation is good for him and his community, right? But we get the feeling that's not good in our community. Makes you scratch your head a little bit. What else happened? Continued dollars on the interstate and the corridors, right? So you go down the list of the timeline of expansion, widening, French Drive Parkway, right? They continue to add money and dollars in their community, our tax dollars, and we still have kind of been forgotten. Our project's been forgotten, right? That was promised to us, and it was on 2 tax measures as a finite project, basically. So the question is have we been underserved over all these decades? We asked you your feelings about this, and resoundingly, you all said yes, right? To get somewhere, to a doctor's, professional, accountant, a store, education, a job, right? We don't have that access. We don't have those resources. We see all those resources coming into all those other communities. We don't have those resources coming in, right? And a lot of the reason why annexation is good for them and bad for us is based on population, you get resources, right? So federally, the DOJ, if you want a police or fire grant, if you want HUD, if you want SBA, if you want VA, you go down the list of different grants federally, it's based on population. The larger you are, the better dollars you get for your community and your people. Same thing with the state, same thing with the county, right? So that's why they're annexing away and they're growing, because they're lifting up their people on that side. So, again, they built the corridor, and they annex to help their communities that they live in, why can't we have a big idea for ourselves to do the same thing, right? Why aren't we helping ourselves and our own people, our own neighborhoods, our own community the same path? Again, we know who we are, right? This is Warren's Thoroughbred Farm on Sanderson and Esplanade. This is here in the valley, right? We're not a new community, we're an old community. We've got great assets, right? And we can keep it that way, but we should be doing things to lift us up and lift our people up with that. You know, they capture. What does that even mean, right? Well, what does it mean? It means get a corridor so your people can come in and out, you do businesses, and then what do you do? With your population, right? That adds resources which uplift your community and it lets you evolve, right? It's just kind of basic how it works on that side. So why is it good for everybody else, but it's bad for us? You know, it definitely just makes common sense when you talk about it. So in 2023, a lot of us got together and said, you know what, enough's enough. We should have our corridor. We should stand up, unite the valley, and fight. We haven't done this in a long time. There's always the nice guy attitude. We'd always ask the county, when I was elected from 2010 to 2020, we'd get together with different leaders, we'd go ask them, what about our project? Oh, there's no money. Oh, there's no money, as they're building these other projects. However, Temecula, Corona, and Riverside would sue, right? They were going to bat for the people, and they would sue the Transportation Commission to get their corridors, right? So we're being the nice guy instead of going to bat and fighting for our people. So we said, hey, we're going to fight now. And we did. It was a fight from 22, 23, 79 Coalition was its name. We basically were formed to bring this project forward. And at the end of the day, we want to gain a unanimous support by every city and by every supervisor behind our project after fighting for roughly 18 months. And slowly we got everybody on board, right? They hadn't seen this community come together in a long time. It started with the cities, MSJC, Valley-wide, Winchester Township, past supervisors, Sabova, school district, both congressmen, and all of a sudden, everything aligned and our project was approved to move forward. And it was made a priority over other communities finally. We were actually being recognized as a priority. And it's like, wow, you know, we haven't seen our community come together in a long time to fight for something like this. This is the corridor. So it goes from Lambs Canyon, basically out past Diamond Valley Lake. Medical care, education, you can think on the 215, right? The Loma Linda, the Kaiser, you know, all the services that are provided along these corridors that are critical for our community and our own people. So what did RCTC do, right? So in 24 January, unanimous, they chose to move forward. They had three choices: do nothing, only buy land, or buy land and start the project. They chose start the project. Segment 3 is the Winchester one. The Galagonis were here earlier, supported that project to move forward. They brought it back in 24. They notified the state because it was a state project. They notified the state, hey, we're going to take it over as a county and make it a county expressway. Less concrete, less impact on the community. Caltrans agreed. Fast forward to 24 in December, they award the design contract. So the engineering team is hired, they're designing, they're going through that process right now. The city's been weighing in on the design of this project. And then this year in February, they approved the finance RFP of funding the whole project, looking at putting together all those pieces, the grants, different things that may be a part of it, maybe a toll road, there's different things that go into kind of the financing to build this whole project. What I didn't put up here is the movement since then. So because of our leadership, now other communities are jumping on board. So Calamasa, Beaumont, Banning have jumped on board, and they just received a unanimous vote to move forward with the flyover study from the 10 onto the 79, right? So that weight of in Beaumont and that traffic mess that's in Beaumont, they'll get rid of that, right? So kind of continuous, it get reduce of cars idling, it's reduce of that smog and emission of cars idling, very good thing. Also, Menifee and Temecula now are asking for the southern route, where to connect in their own study to have with that. So now all of a sudden, people are championing, people are jumping on board with our leadership of the county, which again exhibits our ability to make stuff happen for ourselves, but then also benefits the rest of the county, and it's recognized. Success in moving capture forward is critical. C's moving forward. Success in uniting leaders. When is the last time we've ever had everyone work together for one common good? I can't remember since growing up here when that was. So what changed from the corridor push and access for our people on daily life to be where we're at today? Well, kind of blame the next person that's going to speak, because she was out fighting, and this is kind of where all the things started to turn to step 2 for us to make change happen. We're going to welcome to the stage Debbie Green, advocate, leading a lot of efforts, years of giving and leadership in the Valley, raised her son and now her grandchildren here as well. Welcome. You got it. You got it.
Well, as I said, I'm Debbie Green, and this project you see behind me, the Citrus Valley Development, was a big turnoff to me. I live out in the east end of town. Can you guys hear me?
There you go.
Okay. I live on that end of town, and when I heard about what was happening, it was going to be 6,300 homes. I hate to call them homes, because when we get into that kind of high density, some of those lots had to be 3,500 square feet. If that, probably townhouses, condos, that sort of thing. My concern was the size of our roads, and that is a concern throughout the valley. Look at Stetson. I always tell people that have some bright idea of how they're going to make a thoroughfare on Stetson, hit it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon heading east. And somehow we can never widen. There's nothing we can do with it, because people's property lines, the way it's set, particularly between Buena Vista and San Jacinto Street. So a group of ladies got together, and we had notification of about 2 weeks, and they were notified only 600 feet around the project, which when you have farmland that large, you're not going to have many people notified. So it was kind of miraculous that we were able to rally as many people as we did. We had some great ideas and help, and that's the thing, is everybody wants to gain information and present better, so that they can get their win, if that's what they're looking for. So, but that didn't quite bring me on board to annexation. This year, so a lot of chatter about this. Some people are for it, some people are against it. I personally think that a 35,000 square foot home in the middle of the groves is a mansion, and probably should be sold to somebody that is mansion quality. Are there many of those people out there? No. So your other option is to possibly play a shell game with your corporations, sell it to another corporation for whatever price you want, and put together a project. The project that was presented in April on this, the guys presenting, I thought, did a really lousy job for the doctor. The questions that were asked by the committee were excellent. Things like, so how many stories is this facility going to be? Well, it could be 6, it could be 4. And how large are the lots going to be? Well, it could be 3,500 square feet. And keep in mind, this is 17.5 acres. And the minimum zoning on the majority of it is 5 acres. So that's a big leap. When you take 1 acre is 43,560 feet. So very, very high density. I'm not against seniors. I am 68 years old, and I am also a senior. So I do believe there needs to be a place for all of us. But the roads were the big issue. But even that didn't quite bring me there. I did it, even facing the wrong way. The boulders, this has been going on for years, and it's a project up on the mesa on the south mountains of Hemet. You would enter it from Gibble Road, and the plan was to create a road on Cornell. Well, a lot of pushback on that. 400 homes is the proposal. Whether that'll ever come, who knows? But again, we have to continue fighting every time we hear that there's a planning commission meeting or any sort of county meeting, because if you don't, we don't have local control to know what's happening unless we're researching all the time. For me, it's been like put your finger in the hole in the boat, and then there's another hole and another hole and another hole. You all know where that goes. So we got a boat full of holes and a lot of problems, and we're nowhere. This. Our group has apparently been accused, and I want to correct this tonight, that we put out false information saying there were going to be 100 homeless people living there. That is not true. There were going to be 22-bed units or little houses put on the lots, 3 acres, and that would have housed 40 people. We said that all along. What happened is the water district came in and they said, no, we can't provide that much water. We can allow you to build 3 houses on the lots, 4 houses on the lots, and they were going to each be 6-bedroom. That was approved after the fiasco had already taken place. So let me wind back. There were public meetings held for the public after the county had thrown the money at it. So the deal was done, the land was bought, everything was moving forward, and then the public found out. So for me, that was the final straw, and why I am for annexation, because I see the county is doing whatever they want with us. I've seen it for decades, and you hear a lot of people say, I just want things the way they were. And Andrew hit on this. Which part do you want? The 1950s or the 1985 or now? And I don't think anybody means now, but we can't go backwards. But does everybody in this room own real estate? Tell me who doesn't own real estate. Raise your hand if you don't own real estate. Okay, so everybody supposedly owns real estate. So if you own real estate, you have a right to sell it. And so does every landowner that's got a large parcel of land. But the hope for your neighbors when that landowner goes to sell is that they're not going to do something that's going to affect your life. And when you see these large zoning changes coming, it's horrendous on the neighborhood. The streets can't handle it. I know we'll have a water problem. On the east side, we've got the bats on that bridge. I feel that may still come into play. You just don't have the roads, for me, is the main thing. And so I did want to clarify that we didn't put out any false information. So I'm on board. And the way I look at it is, every day when I go pick my mail up out of the mailbox, it comes to me at Hemet, California, 92544. And your mail does the same thing. Maybe a different zip code, but we're one community. We need to start acting like one community and move this forward instead of the boat having holes in it and trying to fix it all the time. Let's get that control so that we can make it better for all of us. That's my dream. And like I say, I've spent my entire adult life here. I moved out here in 1971. I've worked in this valley for 50 years. And I believe we have more in common than not. I'm not here to argue with anybody. I just here to put out fact and hope that it's reported fairly, because we don't have newspapers anymore. So we rely on social media, and if you heard it on the internet, it's got to be true. So this one here, this was one of the questions. How do you feel about the current projects under the County of Hemet sphere, such as CityNet, Homeless Project, Citrus Development, the Boulders Development, and Chattery Project? And 75% of the people are against it. So we can either all go, like I'm going tomorrow at 9, I'll be there at 9 a.m. for the county meeting, or we can have something here in Hemet where we can fight these battles because we have that local control. So I'm passionate about what we're doing. Andrew brought me into this and knowing how I felt, and all I'm trying to do is good for the valley, and I hope the rest of you are too. Thank you.
What's wrong with that 25%? That's what I want to know. You know, I mean, some people live in this negative mindset that they want that, they oppose this, they like things how they are, they like these negative projects, you know, and it's like, you know, that's always a part of society we're dealing with. But thankfully, there's 3/4 of you that understand what's going on. When I saw Debbie and heard about this going on, you know, obviously I came to the meetings, we talked about citrus, a lot of things were happening, but at the same time, Keith Garrison passed away. I was kind of opened up about what this annexation is about. That's where I dug in. I started thinking about all these pieces, and that's where I had the aha moment, right? That, hey, if this is good for everybody else to capture resources, good for the people for access, we're the only community in all of Riverside County that it's bad for, right? We're the only one it's bad for. It doesn't math. It doesn't make any sense. This is the Maystone, by the way, and you can see this generations of people that love coming here and the beauty of this valley, right? Just decades and decades of people coming here. You can see how happy they are, the smiles on their faces. Handsome couple, for sure. But these are the treasures we have, timeless treasures we have here. But it's the idea of we should be taking control, right? Right now, we have an opportunity that's already teed up to take control. And these projects are coming in, hopscotch throughout the county. And once they're built and they're done, right? And what was once all county is a bunch of towns. So to think that your county is not going to be towns, well, history proves us all wrong the last 30 years with all the population and growth the county has had. Supervisor Washington asked me to sit on his GPAC committee, which is the General Plan Advisory Committee that happens every 10 years. Each district has a representative. He asked me to represent our district up there. I agreed. This is following the 79 win. Saw how we led and we pushed. And sitting up there, hearing the zone changes that are being asked that we're turning down, like the project, the Showery project, we're voting against, and it still goes to planning commission, still goes on beyond, we vote no, it goes past us, it's just a citizens committee. It's amazing to me the projects that are coming in. And this is just the zone changes. It's not even the ones that don't require zone change or going through planning and development in the county area. Tremendous amount. You can look at Winchester. That's all county where those homes are. I don't think that's what we all want. So we need to protect who we are and to conserve our culture and our history. And that was one thing in San Jacinto as a council member for 10 years was, hey, growth is coming. Growth can be good for our people if it's handled the right way. We need to take the steering wheel, but protect and conserve who we are and protect what we have. We brought back the Ag Festival. We reinvigorated the SBO Mansion. We moved the museum over there on the property. We tapped developers, right, for art, public art. We now have 3 murals in San Jacinto that depict the history of it. We created a utility company for the city to bring back revenue and reduce energy costs for our residents. We can embrace it and do it right. We don't have to be them just because we're saying we want to capture resources. We don't want to be them. We just want the assets for our people that they're collecting. So what does it look like? So this is the annexation map. And you can see the light pink area is parcel 1. And that's basically San Jacinto Street. I mean, literally 2 blocks or 3, whatever number of blocks, a couple lights down from where we're at, is the dividing line. A lot of people think that's all Hemet, Girard, Yale, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Stanford. That's not. All that high density is all county in that area. LAFCO, Metropolitan, want the lake, the water body under one body. It makes sense that that's a Hemet resource, our community resource. So quick line, Winchester, we push back to go along their borders, California Street up. Parcel 2, parcel 2 is the hill across from Four Seasons. Four Seasons, a finger that pokes out, basically. Parcel 2 is has a line that goes through it right now. You really can't see it. It goes jig-jagged across. It cuts parcel lines, so it's just squaring that off. That's also a Lithuania site that's religious. It's part of the Seven Sacred Sisters. Pechanga has sued RCTC with the corridor and roadways through there to protect their rights. I was part of that committee to do that. That will never be built on. And then, of course, just north of Four Seasons, it squares off the property with Esplanade that basically goes on. So that's the annexation map. So what about the annexation itself? So Bruce Wallace is going to be the next speaker. He's an attorney by trade. He's a generational family member here, raises children here, donated numerous hours, time, and money to many, many organizations and volunteer. But he can talk at nauseam, the details that matter. You won't do ad nauseum tonight, I promise you. But please welcome Bruce Wallace.
I forgot something, didn't
I stay away from things all mechanical. Andrew and Debbie have given you a lot of information and a lot of reasons to support the annexation process. My purpose is to take you through kind of a primer of how the annexation process works. It starts with the right to file a certificate with LAFCO, and I'll explain LAFCO in a moment. A certificate of sufficiency. The purpose is either a city or a special district can file a resolution that says we want to start a process of a change of organization. That's a fancy word for growing your bandits, but that's what the legislature calls it, a change of organization. The alternative is you have a group of registered voters who can start the process, or registered landowners. So you really have two ways to start this annex ball rolling. Now, the registered voter process is what Hemet United chose to take. So their goal was to go get enough registered voters living in the proposed annex area to satisfy LAFCO. The process requires a petition, I'm looking for the right terminology, a petition to file with LAFCO, and Hemet United did so back in 2020. And the request was to annex 34,000 acres, which is what you just saw depicted on the screen. That initial filing was rejected. It was subsequently refiled in 2022, and the Riverside County Register of Voters then determined how many people that had signed the petitions actually lived in those areas. They determined that overall there were 20,456 folks in the proposed area that could vote as registered voters. The legislature has set up a process for determining how many signatures need to be signed to make a certificate valid. And it's 5% of the folks living in the proposed area. So you're a little over 1,000 in the area that we're looking at. Hemet United filed their petition, The Riverside County Register of Voters then did their analysis of whether these folks that signed the petition actually lived where they said they lived, and they found that to be correct. And so they then filed what's called a certificate of sufficiency registered vote petition. I'll read that again and try and get it out a little easier. Certificate of sufficiency registered voter petition. So that's step one of moving forward. Who oversees this process? There is a legislatively created entity called LAFCO. LAFCO is an acronym for Local Agency, Local Agency. It is the legislature's watchdog over cities and special districts that wish to alter their borders or change their borders in some way. They're independent. Riverside's LAFCO has the ability to approve or disapprove actions concerning boundaries in Riverside County. And that encompasses any action started by a city or a special district. And a special district is like a cemetery district, in some cases a recreational district, or by landowners or registered voters. So they are comprised, or LAFCO is comprised of 7 members. You have 2 Board of Supervisor representatives. You have 2 City Council representatives who are appointed or elected by all the mayors of the cities in Riverside County. And then you have an at-will public member. So these other folks, elected folks, then choose an at-will public member. So what have we done so far? We filed a certificate that was approved by LAFCO. They said you have created the needed number of folks to sign. The next step is to file an application. And the application is simple to say, but pretty complex to fill out, because it requires the applicant, who in this case would be Hemet United, to take a review of the plan of services. That is, how do we plan for police and fire and any other types of services that cities typically provide? How are we going to pay for it? What's the fiscal impact? What's the map like? Draw us a boundary. So you have a number of analysis that you must make as an applicant to present to LAFCO that supports your right to have this boundary expanded. The keystone in all of those things is a plan of service. How are you going to provide service, and what type of service you're going to provide, in addition to these other things. So that is being worked on at this point by folks within the Hemet United group. And we expect that application will probably be presented to LAFCO before year's end. We'll have additional informational meetings, and we'll also have the opportunity to discuss plan of services and fiscal impacts with Hemet City staff. Once those things are done, we take the application to LAFCO. LAFCO Commission can do one of 3 things. They can say, we approve what you presented, we decline to approve, or we will seek modifications. They must schedule a public meeting, and at that public meeting, their staff presents pros and cons and their analysis of whether this is a good thing. The commission members can weigh in themselves, and probably most importantly, the public has the opportunity to raise whatever questions they have concerning that process. So again, once we complete that, commission members, the 7 votes, then vote to approve, disapprove, modify. If LAFCO approves the application, there is still a protest hearing to be scheduled. And this is required by legislative provision. And at that hearing, in the protest, LAFCO spells out what folks have a right to do in terms of voting to approve, disapprove, and so forth. I would invite you to look at the LAFCO website. It contains a lot of relevant information and more specific things about when you vote, how much of a vote counts, that sort of thing. So it's a process that's underway. The Hemet United Group is working on the application, which is really the important thing here, and we hope to have that out in the near future. So with that, Andrew, I'll let you take us forward.
Thank you, Bruce. So why that information is important is there's been a lot of bad information put out there. One of those is, well, why did you choose this instead of giving all of us a right to vote and having this on a ballot measure? You know, well, as you heard, and you can view on the LAFCO website, that's not an option. There's no path of taking something like this and doing a ballot measure or a vote up to the people. If it's by citizens, it's by parcel owner, or it's by registered voters, right? Parcel owners, guess what? You own many, many acres. You can vote and carry your vote without a lot of people. You carry a lot of weight by parcels. Citizens, right? That's your voice. So the path that was chosen was the path that gives all of you the biggest voice and biggest influence in a process like this. So I just want to correct that bad information. Thank you, Bruce, for clarifying the process and where we're at. So who is Hemet Rising and United, right? We are a group of leaders, right, that you have voted for in the past in the community. This is school board members, this is water board members, city council past members, philanthropists, volunteers, people that have decades and decades have given time and involvement in the community. We have requested to meet, or we have met, with several of the opposition. We're always open to continue to do that. We are interested in opinions and trying to find a resolve. You know, but much like my kids, when you present a problem, present a solution, right? For 40 years we've been doing this, and doing the same thing for another 40 years is not a solution. So we always ask for people, hey, we're willing to meet, we're a small town, we're always willing to talk and try to find a solution. But what are the benefits of annexing, right? Well, the biggest thing is local control by all of us. So right now what's being developed is hopscotch. People are putting projects in, there's no real master plan, there's nothing to preserve who we are, our culture, any of those items. Through annexation, you'll still have your supervisor who you enjoy, but you'll have a district council member now. And most people in the county are already weighing in. They're already showing up at city council meetings, they're already showing up at any of the committee meetings. They're already involved, but they can't vote for anybody that's on planning commission or on city council. But they can participate, right? If you go through annexation, your neighbor, you, your family member can be involved and drive change. Right? Smaller government is better than bigger government. You can provide input to shape the annexation, right? This is a citizen piece, right? This is, we're doing it. It's not the city doing it. It's not one person doing it. We want input, right? We can't see every concern, but since we're steering the vehicle, we can make certain requirements to the annexation to protect us or to have new ideas to come forward. These things are important to to us, if we're gonna protect ourselves and take control, let's take control of what are those things that we all think we should do to protect our community. So we asked, and a lot of people have responded. We had concerns from neighbors, right, about the annexation, and some of it's citrus related, some of it's homeless related, there's several different issues you've already heard tonight, but there was many more that came up. And that's what we like to hear, right? What are those other concerns? What is it that you don't like? What is it that we can address to make it better for you or to protect you, whether it's from the county or from the city in that aspect? There's a comment of we're taking your rights from property owners. Giving control is what we're looking for, and not trying to scare people. This is, of course, Bella Vista, area I grew up in. We all love, it's part of our beauty. Happy to see what the Kellys are doing on their piece, but just another beautiful spot of our community, that's for sure. So we asked everybody a couple questions about what are some things that are important to you through the annexation. So rent control for seniors is a very important thing. 25% weighed in on that. We have a lot of seniors, a lot of community. We're glad to see that feedback. Valley-wide parks, right? So when Menifee did its annexation, there was a huge battle because it was all Valley-wide parks. But Menifee came in and kicked out Valley-wide. There was a huge battle and kind of fought to take over the parks. Right? We love our Valley-wide parks here. That's something we want to protect. And we would agree with the public saying, yeah, we want to keep Valley-wide parks. They do a great job. I grew up there as a kid playing soccer. It's one of those pieces that our community needs, and they do a great job. Preserving current way of life, 75%. And it is, right? We're here for a reason, right? We're not in Orange County, we're not in LA, we're not somewhere else. We're here, and it's for a reason. Local control, again, 75%, kind of overwhelming, that want to have a voice, to have an input, to have change, influence, and or be able to comment, and your comments be heard about what's going on in your community. And then taxes, right? That's another concern is what about taxes and how does it affect me? That's another misnomer that's put out there, right? The property taxes don't go up. The city has a 1% sales tax. That doesn't apply to food. So on a few things, you will pay 1%, but that's the only thing that would change. There's no other assessments, there's no other changes. But these are kind of the big items that came up. So let's talk about it. So some other supporters that we have, the McIntyres, this was their development in the 70s, and it was the first mobile home park in the United States. Here in Hemet, Sierra Dawn. Doesn't look like Sierra Dawn, does it? There's nothing around it. The senior community that I grew up in, throwing newspapers, Cranmer Village, I think is just to the north, Seven Hills, Eden Rock, I think is to one side, but this is Sierra Dawn back in the day. So seniors and rent control, this is a big challenge, right? For our seniors is over time in inflation, if they have space rent or rent and it's $200 or $400, having to go to $1,200 like it has over the last decade, and they can't afford it. That's where our challenge right now is homeless seniors. We were just talking about how to try to help that and how to turn that back, but we have people here and seniors here, and we are a senior-friendly community. We want to keep it that way, so recognizing that is critical. In talking to council members, the county's senior rent control is a little bit more stringent than the city's, so we want to make that a demand in our annexation and our submittal that the city adopt and maintain those same standards and those same rent control agreements that are in place. That's a very easy thing to include, and it will be that way, right? I'm sure you recognize this if you've been to the Aquatic Center, out to Valley White and Diamond Valley. Beautiful place. Retaining Valley White parks, we haven't talked about that. That's going to be a goal, right? That's going to be a requirement that we demand is it's going to stay in the district, Valley White district, and stay there. There is a misnomer that if you're not in the Valley White Parks Rec Assessment District, that this will bring you into that. Absolutely not. This doesn't change the district, water district, your parks district. It doesn't change anything. This is just the city lines that we're talking about. And then the rural property. This is a critical part for many of us, right, that live and enjoy this rural community that we live in. All right, we have dirt roads, many people want to keep it that way. They don't have sidewalks, they don't want sidewalks. Septic, well, propane, they want to keep it that way. Right, they're self-sufficient. We want that too, right? This is who we are. We've been here a long time. We're a ranching ag community. We get it, and those are things that should be protected. The county isn't providing you protection, right? This is a choice to not take your rights, but protect your rights. That's what we're talking about. Right? As the county comes in, develops these projects, right? They're slapping in, they're putting cars in your road. There's nothing they're doing to protect anything about your community or your neighborhood. Let's talk neighborhoods. Preserve and conserve, right? Talk about do growth where we protect who we are. We have some phenomenal neighborhoods. They're very old. City Heights, Denson Heights, Diamond Valley, Val Vista, Sprague Heights, Citrus View, some great areas. Just like in Riverside or other towns where they identify, they have placards, they establish boundaries, they establish certain general plans or master plans that protect those communities. They maintain lot sizes regardless of development or growth. They do things to protect and basically make sure that those communities are identified the way they are and protect them. We need this. You know, up in my neighborhood, we have halfway houses coming in. I mean, it's one of those things where we need to have standards. This is how we do it. We put it in place. We're in control of this bus. Get on board and let's make some good change. And then conserve our local culture, right? Like you said, we're not these other communities. We're ranching, we're ag, we like motorsports, we like open space, we like history, we like hunting. There's all kinds of stuff that is our community. I showed some of these views, some of our biological assets that we have, Simpson Park, these different areas. These are things that we need to identify and basically make sure that we protect going forward. We heard from people and we agree. In fact, the city manager, he's already identified and visited many communities to identify how to do that. This is something that they appreciate. He grew up on Citrus View as a kid in high school out in the orchards running. We have a city manager who gets it for the first time. And things are important. And then we also heard was decreased property insurance. It's a big thing that's seen in a lot of different areas right now. A lot of people are being hit with that. As a one-off, it wasn't something we expected, but it makes perfect sense. If there's something we can do to reduce your property insurance, why wouldn't we be doing that? And so our discussion, it came up with how could we request certain things to be accomplished through the annexation by the city to hit a certain level that might accomplish that. And with that, we have Sean Murphy with us this evening, part of our team, and he did some research on this and has quite a few facts. Well, welcome, Sean Murphy.
Thank you, Andrew. I want to talk about ISO ratings and how they affect you and what changes the difference in an ISO rating and how it impacts insurance. So an ISO rating is the effectiveness of fire protection services. And it ranges between a class 1 and a class 10. The lower, the better. So a class 1 is exemplary and a class 10 is unprotected. And those classifications directly correlate to property insurance costs. So if you have a lower ISO rating, then your property insurance should be less. There are several components to the ISO ratings. There are key components to make it up. Emergency communications, fire department capability, water supply systems, fire prevention, and public safety education. In the last 3 to 5 years, the city of Hemet has put in a lot of time, effort, and money into the emergency communication systems, 911 dispatch center, to improve it, to staff it, and make it more functional and work between police and fire. They've also built a mobile command unit, that is police and fire unit, that's used for 2 reasons. Number one, if there's a big natural disaster and the main 911 system operators are working on that, then they can have a secondary system for ongoing emergencies that are going within the city. And number two, if that main system goes down, they can put into service the mobile command system. And that is a huge impact on all of us during emergencies, during these natural disasters, or when things happen, and we have that availability of that mobile command unit.
And it's a big component of the ISO rating.
Professional staffing in the fire department. The fire department has worked in conjunction with the city to be fully staffed and to have applicants ready to go to improve staffing levels as time goes on, along with training of the firefighters to ensure that they're trained up to the standards and that they can move up in ranks should that be necessary through attrition or annexation. They're prepared for that. And we've been preparing for that for quite some time. As far as training, the fire department has built a training tower, a regional training tower over at Station 4. Put a lot of money into that so that the firefighters can train and be ready for all incidents and not have to go to other facilities that are outside or use training facilities that weren't up to par. With the regional training facility, they work with other firefighters for mutual aid during their training, Idlewild, Saboba, Cal Fire, Murrieta, for example, so we can have joined, unified training so that we all can work together at the same time. There's plans already in place to increase that training tower to a 3-level training tower, which also is part of the ISO reduction from a 4 to a 3, which is what we're trying to get at. And then also to create a mini city of emergencies. So basically, in the city, have a rail car that's turned over and how that would affect and how obviously that takes a lot of firefighters to handle something like that. So we would work with these other agencies and working with that, we would work together in the training scenarios.
I fall behind on this thing.
Water supply, the city has a great water supply, working with Lake Hemet, EMWD, the city, and we want to continue that, and we want to push that effort, and we're requesting that through the SLAPCO application into the county to ensure that that water supply is as good as it is now or better within the city. Another component is the fire prevention and community risk reduction. The fire department has implemented the Department of Life Safety, which combines prevention, fire prevention, and code enforcement together. So all 3 units are working hand in hand with the firefighters to ensure that all the premises in the city are safe to be in. That has been a big game changer as far as getting things taken care of quickly and efficiently. As far as community risk reduction, the Hemet Firefighters Association has for a decade or more gone to mobile home communities to check on the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors for those that aren't able to check on those themselves, replace batteries, replace detectors. And then also the city has, and the fire department has a person dedicated to the CERT team, which is a community emergency response team within a community. So at a mobile home park, there's a natural disaster, the resources are all there. That community can be self-sufficient until we can get outside resources to help them with issues that are going on within the community. And most recently, we have a community cadet program. Community cadet program is individuals that get a part-time seasonal job here, start learning about firefighting, and clean up light within the city, the fire line within the city, so that if fire's coming along, have a place to stop so it doesn't reach our homes. That's been a new addition in the last couple of years.
I went too far.
As far as the component of public safety education, the Hemet Fire Department has had several programs that have been going on for quite some time. The annual fire prevention open house week. A new one is the Women's Empowerment Camp and the Hemet Fire Explorers. The Fire Explorers have a strong history in the community. They're very good at what they do as far as building potential firefighter candidates up to become firefighters. And we have several firefighters on the floor now that came from that program. And they really, last year, they made connections and were able to show how well versed they were. And they'll be hosting for the first time out of all of Southern California fire musters that they have. They'll be hosting at our new training facility, which is a pretty big accomplishment. Youth engagement. The Fire Explorers is a vital extension of the fire department, giving youth engagement to see what it's like to be a firefighter and how to become a firefighter. Currently, the Hemet Fire Department and the city hold an ISO classification rating of 4. And all of those components that have been working on for the past 3 to 5 years definitely put us in a place to move to 3, ISO rating of 3, which is a savings on property insurance for everybody. And that's one of the requirements that we're putting into the LAFCO application, that we continue with this process and improve on it so that we can get to that next level and work towards a lower level in the ISO rating. And back to you, Andrew.
You covered a lot of things, but I think one of the highlights is Hemet was selected to host the California Fire Explorers spring break camp out of the whole state next year in 2026. So firefighters from all over Explorers, all over the state come to be trained within Hemet and by the Hemet program. Hemet Unified School District agreed to host. It's going to be hosting downtown. Buses on it, really is a big accolade and how they're back to be recognized that way, to be selected and entrusted with our future firefighters throughout the state. So thanks for the update on that, Sean. That's great. We gave you a little preview, but all of this, right? It's a lot of information, and that's why we're here, right? That's why there are several meetings. If you're a group you want us to meet with, we're happy to go out and meet with people, your neighbors. We want to share with them what's going on, and we want to hear all those concerns. So we try to address these different concerns. We're going to be implementing it and making it a requirement within the annexation application, and work to basically make sure those items are listed and adopted within the requirements, right? So we're driving the bus on that aspect. So local control makes the difference, right? And we're hearing people, we're including, we want to be, basically, let's hear all the negatives, let's find a solution long term, because this is going to last for a long, long time, right? We're over 100 years old, and just like the corridors or access, what we're doing today is going to affect generation, and generation going forward. So what can we put in place to do that, to protect ourselves, also our future generations? How do we do this better than when we came in, right? And I think that's really the goal here. So we want to hear the concerns. We want to hear solutions or think of solutions if there isn't one today. Then we want to figure out, how do we implement? How do we request it? What are those steps? And work with the city through the process to make sure that it can be implemented and it's a realistic time frame. It may be something adopted with rent control. It may be a list of, hey, certain investments being made to the fire department or et cetera to get there. There's going to be different steps, but let's figure it out. And this is the time to do it, because once this change happens, development happens, this opportunity is gone, right? We're at the fork in the road. We're seeing the growth. Let's be in control and do it our way. You have local elected, and many of you are already talking to them. Your friends them on Facebook, you see them in church, you see them in the store. It's time to take back Hemet. That's really the key. Hemet first. We're being recognized by the county. We've talked about that, right? We're in a perfect time to take it to step 2 and start making it happen today. It's a long process. Anything with government, it doesn't happen overnight. You all know that, right? This is a long process, but we're setting up for a long term. And somebody said, you know, hey, I want to see the whole city cleaned up before I do anything. Again, this makes 0 sense in your head, right? So I'm not going to invest in my home or my neighborhood or my community because who's elected? Was that because the president, the governor, your council, right? You don't stop investing in your community. You're making decisions based on who's elected today. That makes 0 sense. You should be doing things for your community, your neighborhood, and your home at all times if it's your community. I get it, some people don't want that. They want a pink house and they want a bunch of junk cars in the front yard. There are some people, that's the 25% that wants it the way that it is. That's okay. So we ask all of you, please give us feedback. We're going to be standing up here, being able to take questions. We have questions. Hopefully you have note cards. I took note cards to submit questions. Questions are online. We have 2 more speaking engagements on Thursday. If there's more that you would like, we're open to that. We had some people ask us to come to their community. Absolutely, right? We're taking time to make sure the word gets out and expressed. We have people on video like Roy that's asked to be here and be able to reach out. That's the sort of stuff we want. So, Hemet first, and it's not time to stop believing, right? Don't stop believing in our community, our people, and that we can have a better tomorrow. Thank you all for coming. We'll stay around. I hope you all have a good night.
This is Roy Michael, Channel 21 News. Please like and subscribe.